Hi, I'm Monsignor Walter Nolan. Welcome to the Catholic Corner. My guest today is a marvelous, marvelous young priest, Father Rayford Emmons. He's the parochial vicar at St. Martin of Tours Church in Philadelphia, and he was the first black priest ordained in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia in 1974. He's also the first black priest to be appointed a pastor in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia by the late Cardinal John Kroll. At that time, he was a young 38, one of the youngest Catholic priests in the diocese. Father Emmons was raised Methodist and converted to Catholicism when he was 15 years old. He's a West Philadelphia native, graduated St. Thomas More High School in Philadelphia. He's here today to share with us about the history of black Catholics in the tri-state area of New Jersey, Philadelphia, Delaware. It's a history that goes back 275 years to the first recorded African American to be baptized into Catholicism at St. Mary's Church, the second oldest church in Philadelphia. Father Rayford, thanks for being with us. Welcome.
Father Monsignor Nolan, I'm really impressed that you knew that much about me and all the history. Very good.
Listen, tell me a little bit about yourself, going back to when you're a kid, so to speak, 15 years old, and you're starting to, at that age, wrestle with God and God's calls. And what led you to Catholicism? I see you were in a Catholic high school.
Yes. Well, actually, I'd gone all the way through my life in public school. And my parents were very much concerned about our education, as my brother and I. So when I went to a junior high school, I used to walk past a Catholic high school every day. And on my way to my junior high school, there'd be groups of high school guys on their way to this high school. And I had friends of mine who went there, and they had a lot of good things to say about it. And I thought it was a religious context. It was a faith-filled institution. A lot of good things said. So I said, when I got to ninth grade, I wanted to transfer to a high school. So I thought about West Catholic, which was the name of the school. And my teacher said, I went to the school to talk to him about it. He says, well, no, you have to be a Catholic to get in. So I thought about that for a while. I says, do I want to change my faith in order to do that? So I thought about it. I got a catechism and that kind of thing. As I began to reflect on it, it really seemed to say more than just a change of faith. It was a whole completely change of perspective in being a Christian. It just made more and more sense to me. And so finally, the local parish, I went in and I said I want to become a Catholic.
Just like that?
Yeah, it took about a year of reflection, though. I really thought about it. I talked to my friends a lot about it. And then I went in. And then later, as I became a Catholic, I'd always thought about being a missionary. Mm-hmm. As a Methodist. I was a Methodist, African Methodist Episcopal. And I said, well, why don't I transfer that to becoming a priest? Because the Lord kept insisting. He wouldn't let me go. He just said, that's the thing I want you to be. He just kept on hitting me in a million different ways. No matter what I thought about being a store owner or a doctor or a social worker, he wouldn't let that go. He wanted me to be considered a priesthood. So that's what I did.
So the little voice inside of you kept saying,
it was a big
that's
voice.
Okay, you can do that, but how about this?
Exactly.
Terrific. But, the black Catholicism in this area, mm-hmm. How did it start? Where did it come from? Did it generate from here, or did it come from south? Or how did that all have that history? It's a great history.
Yeah. Surprisingly, if you go all the way back to the Bible, you see how Africa is involved in Scripture. So if you talk about Moses, his wife was an Ethiopian, for example. Moses himself was born in Africa. The Jewish people spent 400 years in Africa. In the New Testament, we know that Jesus, when he was a child, at 2 years old, spent an early childhood in Africa when his parents left there. And it's even believed that one of his apostles named Simeon was also from Africa. Other things involve the early fathers of the church. There's three groups. There's the African fathers, there's the Greek fathers, and there's the Latin fathers. But you have St. Augustine among that African group, and you have St. Cyprian. We have three African popes, and people estimate there's at least 10,000 saints who are from Africa. It's believed that as far as the 3rd century, that people came over from Africa, Western Africa, and settled in Honduras, and they were Christians, and therefore Catholic. 1492, one of the first persons who came over with Columbus was a man by the name of Pedro Ninan, who was of African descent, and he was the captain of the Nina. Many people came over as slaves in the 1600s, but when they settled in Maryland, we had the beginnings of people being baptized as early as the 1600s in Maryland. And later, as some of them moved up to Philadelphia and became residents here, St. Joseph's Parish established in 1733, we see the first records of African people being baptized in 1743, and later someone else in 1744. So it has a long, long history from all those resources. Since that time, we've had as many as 40,000 African American people in Philadelphia, maybe 55,000 in the tri-state area. And we've had 75,000 young people who have attended Catholic schools. It's generated something like 200 to 300 black Catholic sisters. And there's been between 125 to 150 priests who have been from that area.
So that stimulus and the Holy Spirit really spurred an awful lot of the faith that was somewhat maybe came from other places and was already in their hearts and in their souls. And
yeah, a lot of the thing that you have a lot of people who came to the United States already being Catholic. So you had a lot of Haitian Catholics that came up right during the Haitian Revolution in the 1790s. People left Haiti because they just weren't going to buy into the revolution. So they came here. In the early 1790s, maybe around 1791, 1792, you have a large contingent of people who end up in Baltimore, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. They spread out. You have a lot of African people today who come over from countries that are predominantly Catholic. The Catholic Church in Africa is the largest and most vibrant church in Africa, okay? Something like 100 million Africans are Catholic, so they bring something. People from the Caribbean who are Catholic came here. But the largest number of black Catholics in Philadelphia and the tri-state area are Americans themselves, African Americans themselves. What took place was that the educational system of the Catholic Church, which was very evangelical in the 40s and 50s and 60s, that you had to be Catholic, go to a Catholic school. That's what created many of the black Catholics that we have today.
so they come in for the education.
For the education, and sometimes from the social outreach of the Catholic Church. And there's been tens of thousands in the Delaware, tens of thousands of Catholic lay people, priests and sisters who've worked in the Black Apostolate for the last 150 years. So that makes a big deal too.
Now at the beginning, Father, did they have their own church structure, or was it integrated with everybody in the area?
There's some interesting things about that. Most of the things that happened in the United States was anybody who came to the United States basically had to adapt to the American system. So even if you have cultural parishes, Italian, Polish, whatever, different groups that came here to the United States, even though they brought over their own cultural models, there still had to be some adaptation to the American model. So the same thing happened with black Catholics. In some cities, especially with Haitians, for example, if you had Haitian priests come with the people, then they kept on to the Haitian model. But 95% of it is the American model.
Now is that growing? How is the impetus of what was started way back, taking roots and
yes, well,
young people?
Well, some interesting things are going on. When I was a priest, when I was a seminarian, I belonged to a national organization that started in the 1970s. It was the National Black Catholic Caucus and the National Office of Black Catholics. The whole idea was to involve black Catholics nationally in leadership organizations and to create leadership and ministry among black Catholics nationwide. At that time, there were less than 1 million black Catholics in the late 60s, early 70s. Today, there's about 3.5 million black Catholics. Back in that time, when I was ordained a priest, even though we had like 55,000 Catholic priests in the United States of America, there were only 125, 150 black priests. Now there's more than 1,000. So there's been an increase in the number of people, there's been an increase in the number of priests, also among black Catholic bishops. When I was ordained, there were no black Catholic bishops, except for one, and there's been 25 since that time. So there's been growth in the population of people, the population of priests, the population of bishops that have made an impact. The number of sisters who are of African descent has also increased because of people from the islands and also people from the Caribbean and also people from Africa who have helped to keep that up.
And they have a great spirit of the poor and of medicine and healing and bringing people to wholeness, which always is a marvelous gift that I think I've seen myself with many folks who have come from a poor area in a sense. I don't know if it's because of how they raised themselves.
I think what happens with the black experience, now you have different nuances on it because you have people from Africa, you have people from the Caribbean, you have people from the United States. Africans bring to the United States a lot of experience in running things. I've visited Africa on a couple of occasions, and when you go to Africa, they run everything. So, they're used to, it doesn't impress them there's a black president because everybody in Africa is black. It doesn't impress them that the prime minister and the head of the police department, because everyone's black. So they're used to that. They're used to running things. Here in the United States of America, we've had it kind of through the civil rights movement and things like that. But what you have with black Americans is this whole idea, the love of freedom, and to push for the poor and push for the needy, to really empathize with people in need. Unfortunately, sometimes that's not nuanced enough in the press. But you look at the people who are the security guards, look at the people who work in social service organizations in major areas in the urban community, you find African Americans doing that. We have a sense for it because we know what we went through. Mm-hmm. So that is highly influenced, especially by African Americans, by their churches. And that same spirit's been brought to the Catholic Church.
And that spirit always a spirit of great joy.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of
enthusiasm. They love to celebrate. They love to dance.
We like to keep it active.
Yeah.
We don't believe in non-enthusiastic worship. And when you come into an African American church, you're not going to see people just sitting there. They're going to be clapping their hands and be praising the Lord. And I think a lot of that has a lot to do with African culture, very much so. But also has to come because church was a place we could go where we could truly be free. And we really saw ourselves as children of God, as a chosen people. And we felt that God had, there was a lot of identification in black religious experience with Israel and becoming free. And so we really appreciated freedom. We knew what it was, and we knew how hard it was to work for, and we knew God got us there.
Can you tell me some of the historical black people that that you're proud of, or kids are proud of, or people are proud? I know in my background, when with the Irish, you kind of say, well, we were in the military, we did this and we did that, and I know you have the same background.
Yeah, I would like to, not just black people, but also black Catholics. And when we talk about Pedro Ninon, we talked about Toussaint Louverture, who was a revolutionary in Haiti who helped free people from oppression. But you also have the founders of religious orders. The oldest or the second oldest religious order in the United States of America is the Oblate Sisters of Providence. This was established with the help of John Newman in the 1800s. One of the foundresses of one of the large religious orders in the Delaware Valley, the Immaculate Heart of Mary Sisters, was a foundress of the Oblate Sisters of Providence. Okay, she came over. We have in Philadelphia area at least 10 women who have been religious superiors and who are foundresses of religious orders, in both black and white, in the Delaware Valley. Individuals such as Bill Cosby's wife is African-American Catholic. We have one of the brothers, the first black bishop in the United States of America, his last name was Healy. His brother was one of the first priests to work here in Archdiocese of Philadelphia in 1906. So we got people like that. If you look at, I'm not particular on names, but one time I did this survey of how many people in the NBA or the NFL are African American Catholic or went to Catholic schools. There's something like 700 who were associated with Catholic education. So it's quite a few.
Yeah, because I've always thought, at least in the past, Catholic education was always pretty high on
athletics.
And developing the entire person.
Yeah, sure.
And athletics certainly
Right,
had
sure.
a primary course. I understand that you're planning something.
Yes.
this 275th anniversary of your presence in the Delaware Valley?
Yes. Last year, we began the first year we started an opening mass that took place in April, and we're planning an 8-year series of activities, and each year we're going to increase it by 2. So in 2012, we had 2 activities. We had a mass that we did in April, which we're going to do every year, one of those years, and we had an historical tour that took place in October, where we went to important historical events for Black Catholics. Now, so next year we're going to have 4 activities. We're going to keep the 2 from this year and add 2 more. And the following year, in 2014, we're going to add 2 more, so we'll have 6 activities. In 2015, we'll have 8 activities. We're going to try to build it up while repeating the activities from the previous year. We're hoping that what we do is generate some type of network that continues that all the way through. We also want to have fundraising activities because we need to teach our people much more about money, about personal finances, as well as raising money for their churches. And we like to establish some type of foundation that looks to increase our care for students, for the sick, for the poor. We want that to kind of generate out of it too.
What are some of these historical places that you want people to come visit?
4 are really significant. One is St. Joseph's, because it was the first Catholic church established in the Philadelphia area, and there were initial black Catholics baptized there. St. Mary's also. We also want to go up to St. John Newman's Shrine, and they actually have 2 windows in the shrine dedicated to Black Catholic sisters, and his involvement with Black Catholics and his whole involvement with just the church in general, reaching out to the poor and establishing sisters. He brought in the first group of black sisters in 1858. Then we go up to Mother Catherine's, St. Catherine Drexel's place, and we find her involvement with it. We also go to the burial site of one of the first 3 black priests to work in the archdiocese. He was 2 years here in the archdiocese. He was buried in 1929 in Bucks County. That kind of thing.
Now, do you get the when you got to do these little pilgrimages?
Yes.
You getting the youth to come with that, and
Yeah.
so they can get a good sense of their history and a good sense of
What's going on?
The love of their own selves.
Right. Well, what we're trying to do fundamentally is to encourage people to recognize that we're not newcomers to the church, and encourage us to be more committed by seeing that there's 2.5 centuries of people who've done a lot of good things. And that's a tradition. It's not just something new, it's a tradition. And we should maintain that tradition today. We have had young people come. I've done these historical tours over a period of like 20 years. So this is maybe the 7th or 8th time I've done it with large groups. And so young people, actually it blows young people's minds to know this. And we're probably maybe about 1/4 of the young people the people who've attended these activities have been young people.
I think it's, I've always thought it's a sense of history. I don't know about yourself, but sometimes I think we're losing a little bit of the sense of history, meaning that, I mean, certainly every generation's a little bit different, and that's a beautiful thing. But I often wonder sometimes if there's a disconnect every once in a while, that all of a sudden it's like a jump, you know, when the printing press was invented, all of a sudden it was a jump. And now there's lots of other things kind of coming to us with different media and different socializations. But to have the young people realize that, you know, you just didn't get here. I mean, there were lots of people before who had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and love and kindness, and to kind of make sure that there's always that connection. That's always in my heart anyway.
When I see what most young people can identify with, if their parents, their grandparents, their sisters or brothers or cousins, have had an experience that's a part of an historical situation, they identify with it because they know the people who went through it. Right. So I don't think young people lose a sense of history as long as people can help them to recognize the connections that they have with it. And if it's explained in a way that they can accept it and do something with it. I had a conversation one time with a high school girl. We were going through her study for a history test, and she says, "Father Emmons, I love all my other subjects, but I can't stand history." I said, "Why not?" it's just about dead people. Okay, so I said, well, wait a minute now. Some of your relatives are part of that history too, blah, blah, blah. We kind of discussed that. When she saw the connection, she began to realize it wasn't just about people who were dead. Some people were alive too.
But sometimes I think, Father Emmons, it's a little hard for everybody to feel. You know, I mean, we no matter how, oh, I don't want to say poor
Much we
are,
know.
but well, yeah, we all pretty much have a little heat. We all have a little place to stay. We all have some food. So it's hard to sometimes go back and say, you know, I mean, I've talked to a lot of youngsters, and they almost think, well, the church that's here now was always here. Well, that's, you know, I mean, it's always here because, you know, some people.
Somebody else built it.
Well, yeah, I mean, somebody had to dig the canals, and somebody had to do the brickwork, and somebody had to do whatever. And I think they kind of feel that that was pretty tough stuff, and how you struggle and struggle for freedom.
Yes.
You know?
What happens, what's good for young people, and because I find it's good for myself, is when you've got to go through the same experience. So the two things that are really good in my life, I worked at a summer camp one time, and we had a fantastic summer camp. But every year we came as counselors, we had to cut down the weeds, we had to build up some brickwork, we had to shore up some of the foundation. Boy, after you went through all that, you say, man, all we did was like 5% of this whole place, you know. Somebody had to build the rest of it. So by going through the work of the actual experience, that helped us to really appreciate those kinds of things. And sometimes when you actually sit and talk with the people and they really tell you what happened, they tell you from their experience, then it's different because they tell you from their own feelings and you begin to see what they're really trying to say. I make that connection.
Can you speak a little bit more about the activities as they're going to grow through the years? I think I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I think what we want to do, what we're looking at next year, for example, in 2013, along with the Mass in April and the historical tour in October, we're looking at, we have an historical display at St. Peter Claver Evangelization Center at 12th and Lombard Street in South Philadelphia. Now we're going to take this historical display, and we have plans to have it exhibited at Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament Mother House in Bensalem. And we'd like to get copies of that display and maybe make photocopies for various parishes, but we're going to do that. And along with that, we're going to have a panel discussion. We're going to try to bring in distinguished black Catholics to talk about their faith in various contexts, in the government context, in the social context, being professionals of service, being ministers. We want to have a conversation about those things. We're also going to have a fundraiser. We're planning to recognize outstanding individuals who have, are people we're proud of, or have made serious contributions to the community. So we're trying to bring in a couple celebrities. We'd like to bring in Boys to Men, is a musical group that's very popular. Some of them went to Catholic schools. We'd like to bring in some basketball players. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar actually went to Catholic school in Philadelphia before he went on to New York and become an NBA player.
I was going to say, didn't he play in the city, New York City, in high school?
He played in New York City, and he also played for Lakers, but he actually had part of his education in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We'd like bringing people of that caliber. We're actually thinking about, he's not African-American, but we're thinking about Ron Jaworski has been involved in a lot of areas that have helped African-American Catholics. And maybe Mary Nutter or Wilson Good also in some ways assisted with black Catholics. We'd like to bring in some church leaders. There's a Bishop George Murray of Youngstown, Ohio, who spent his years as a priest working in Philadelphia. He became a bishop. And Cardinal Justin Regali was responsible for tripling the number of black priests who work in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. And we want to bring in people from the Oblate Sisters of Providence and the Holy Ghost Fathers who helped Mother Catherine Drexel with some of her ministry. And I just want to recognize regular people, just normal people, teachers, CYO people, individuals who've been involved as policemen and firemen who have done something significant, either as black Catholics or for black Catholics.
I mentioned before, I think last night I was with a group of people, and it's just amazing how these were all pretty much Trenton people or Trenton, New Jersey, but how some of them have, were good little athletes or whatever in their younger days, but how they stayed as trainers or coaches and struggled through lots of things to make sure that the next generation had some good qualities and could grow. And when you look back and you start to say, gee, how many people have touched kids that, if they didn't touch them, I mean, last night one of the coaches was saying to me, He just gave a story about this fellow who played basketball and did very well in college, but as a freshman in high school, he wanted to quit. And he said, sat him down. He talked. Just those kind of things, I think, are real history. That's the blood and the aliveness that allows all of our cultures to keep growing and to be blessed.
The thing I said to you in the very beginning was that the Catholic Church. I wish we would not underestimate the ripple effect, the major contributions, and the the impact that we have made on the United States of America and the communities in which we live. You see many schools in our region saying, "Oh, well, kids should wear uniforms to school," because we did it first. You have people. I mentioned to you about mega churches being in the country, the other denominations of immigrant, because we were the first mega churches. So there's a lot of things we've done that are outstanding, have affected many people, that we should claim. One of the things is what's happened in the African American Catholic community, and we don't even know what it is. So that's not just what African American Catholics have done, it's what has happened from Catholics who have contributed to that.
Now tell me, Father, who's invited to all of this? So who do you hope to get to?
Anybody who wants to come. And the best way of contacting me, if it'll be on screen, is Father Rayford Emmons at St. Martin of Tours Church at 5450 Roosevelt Boulevard, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19124, and put on the top of that, since 1743 celebration, since 1743. That's what we're celebrating.
Terrific. You know what, sometimes I think that the early church said that the greatest sin we could ever have is the sin of forgetting. And I think what you're doing, and we all try to do, is to say we can never forget who we are, children of God, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters. And it's a great, great thing, Father Emmons, that you're doing. Keep up the great work and the blessings. And if you don't forget, I won't forget. Okay? Bless you. Catholic Corner, pray for us, be with us, be blessed. Know we love you, and we know you love us. Thanks. Very nice.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I gotta be careful.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Only you can prevent wildfires.